welcome to day 4 of Easter Schools Week Online. I'm so glad that you can join us to explore the Easter story. Today's first Bible reading is from John, chapter 19, verses 5 to 16. So Jesus came out, wearing the crown of thorns and the purple robe. Pilate said to them, "Look, here is the man." When the chief priests and the temple guards saw him, they shouted, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" Pilate said to them, "You take him then and crucify him. I find no reason to condemn him." The crowd answered back, "We have a law that says he ought to die because he claimed to be the Son of God." When Pilate heard this, he was even more afraid. He went back into the palace and asked Jesus, "Where do you come from?" But Jesus did not answer. Pilate said to him, "You will not speak to me. Remember, I have the authority to set you free and also to have you crucified." Jesus answered, "You have authority over me only because it was given to you by God. So the man who handed me over to you is guilty of a worse sin." When Pilate heard this, he tried to find a way to set Jesus free, but the crowd shouted back, "If you set him free, that means you are not the emperor's friend. Anyone who claims to be a king is a rebel against the emperor." When Pilate heard these words, he took Jesus outside and sat down on the judge's seat in the place called the Stone Pavement. In Hebrew, the name is Gabbatha. It was then almost noon of the day before the Passover. Pilate said to the people, "Here is your king." They shouted back, "Kill him! Kill him! Crucify him!" Pilate asked them, "Do you want me to crucify your king?" The chief priests answered, "The only king we have is the emperor." Then Pilate handed Jesus over to them to be crucified. Our second reading is about the burial of Jesus and is from Mark chapter 15, verses 42 to 47. It was towards evening when Joseph of Arimathea arrived. He was a respected member of the council who was waiting for the coming of the kingdom of God. It was preparation day, that is, the day before the Sabbath. So Joseph went boldly into the presence of Pilate and asked him for the body of Jesus. Pilate was surprised to hear that Jesus was already dead. He called the army officer and asked him if Jesus had been dead a long time. After hearing the officer's report, Pilate told Joseph he could have the body. Joseph bought a linen sheet, took the body down, wrapped it in the sheet and placed it in a tomb which had been dug out of a solid rock. Then he rolled a large stone across the entrance to the tomb. Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of Joseph, were watching and saw where the body of Jesus was placed.
I was writing a report to send to Rome when there was a knock at the door. There was plenty to write about. We've seen a lot of trouble on the streets this Passover, a lot of unrest in Jerusalem. It's always a difficult time with so many visitors to the city. Everywhere is crammed to overflowing, and the Jews are difficult to manage at any time. They say they've come here to worship God in the temple, that it's the only place for a good Jew to be at Passover. Some of them are looking to pick a fight with Rome as well. Passover gets them all stirred up. They've come here to remember that God rescued them in the past, when they were slaves from the power of Egypt. And so they think that if God could do that then, surely he could rescue them now from the power of Rome. We need to stamp out that kind of thinking. Root out the troublemakers. Remind them who's in charge. A few executions usually does the trick. There were some today. Crucifixions. Messy business. How else will they learn? My servant opened the door. Excuse me, Excellency, but there's a member of the Sanhedrin out here, one of the leaders of the Jewish council. Yes, yes, I know what the Sanhedrin is, I shouted. What is it this time? Really, they're pushing their luck too far. They'd been here only this morning, a small group of them, pestering me, trying to force my hand. Pilate, their leader says, looking down his nose at me like I was unclean, which I suppose they think I am. We need you to pass the death sentence on this man, Jesus of Nazareth. Need? Why is there a need? What's he done? I asked. He's broken our laws and deserves to die. I've got a cheek, I'll say that for them. Why, I lost my temper then. Broken your laws? The temple laws? Deserves to die? I shouted. So he's not a criminal. You want me to kill a man who isn't a criminal? He hasn't murdered anyone or stolen anything. What's he done? Same priest said, he claims to be the king of the Jews. Is that bad? I laughed. I would have thought you wanted a king. And do you know what they said? Actually had the cheek to say to me. They said, we have no king but Caesar in Rome. Thought I'd choke with laughter. Didn't they know how funny they sounded? They hate Rome. Hate the whole lot of us. I'm sure their holy book has something to say about lying. They must want this man dead very badly. I was intrigued. I'll see him, I said. Bring him here. Wasn't quite what I was expecting, although, what was that? Some crackpot fresh out of the desert, I suppose. I asked him quite simply, are you the king of the Jews? His answer was a straightforward yes. But what he said next was unsettling. My kingdom is not of this world. I've no time for riddles, and so I looked him in the eye and I said, look, let's be clear, it's up to me if you live or die. What he said then really rattled me. He said that I only had power over him because it had been given to me from above. I suppose he meant from God, his God, presumably. Was this the same God that the Pharisees seemed to think wanted him dead? It was odd. Very odd, because he made me feel as if I was the one on trial and he was in charge. Did I pass the test? Don't think so. There was something else he said that bothered me too. He started talking about the truth, as if he was the one who knew what truth was and could point other people towards it. Put my hands up, fending him off, and laughed. Did he think he could persuade me to join his cause? I may not know much about truth, but I do know there's not much honesty around here, and certainly none where those priests from the Sanhedrin are concerned. In the end, they left me with no choice, those wretched priests. They accused me of letting Caesar down. They said that if I let this troublemaker, this Jesus, go free, then there would be a riot and I would get the blame. They would tell Caesar that I was a traitor to Rome. How dare they suggest such a thing? Clever trickery worked. I washed my hands of a lot of them. Quite literally, washed my hands to show that I wasn't the one who was guilty of his death. And I gave them what they wanted and sent this Jesus off to be crucified. Didn't feel good about it, though. Jesus had done nothing wrong. He didn't deserve to die. Excellency, the servant said. He's still waiting, the Pharisee from the Sanhedrin. Will you see him? He says he wants the body. He's asking for permission to take the body of the man called Jesus down from the cross to bury it. It took me a moment to realise just what he was asking for. I think this was because this was one visit I definitely wasn't expecting. Would Jesus be dead yet? It seemed a bit soon. So I asked the servant to go and find out. But apparently the soldiers were back, and yes, he was dead. I knew that the Jews didn't want the bodies left on the crosses on this particular night because tomorrow's Sabbath was to be special. But that didn't explain why a Pharisee of all people would want this body. Send him in, I said. And in he came, Joseph of Arimathea, asking for the body. I said, "You're unbelievable. Only this morning you were howling for his blood, and now you come here asking for his body? What are you going to do? Put him in the family tomb, perhaps?" I started to laugh. Joseph wasn't laughing. He said that was exactly what he wanted to do. Clean the body and put it in his new garden tomb nearby. He made a point of telling me that although he was a Pharisee and a member of the Sanhedrin, he hadn't agreed with their decision to have Jesus killed. He said that one or two of them had protested. He mentioned a man called Nicodemus in particular. Yes, he said that he and this Nicodemus had thought that Jesus was a prophet sent by God. Or even more than that, perhaps he was the Son of God. I was speechless. I felt cold. Suddenly I was shouting, "You're suggesting that I've not only sent a king to his death, but you're actually saying that I have allowed them to kill the Son of God?" The sadness of that man just seemed to fill the room. It was coming off him in waves. He looked me straight in the eye and he said, "Excellency, not just you. We are all guilty of killing the Son of God." "Well, he's dead all right, so off you go, take the body." I waved him away, not wanting to think about it anymore. It had been a bad day's work, but at least it was over now. But no, guess what? I had another visit. Still more priests from the Sanhedrin. And can you believe this? They said they wanted me to send soldiers to guard the tomb and to make it doubly safe by putting a seal on the stone, covering the entrance. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I was so exasperated. "You're impossible," I shouted. "Even now after the man's dead, can't you leave him alone? What do you think will happen? Will he escape from the tomb, dead man walking?" Turned my back on them, the signal for them to leave. But no, they were still there, insisting I listen. I thought they were gripped by madness, but there was no denying them. They explained that his disciples had claimed he would return from the dead, come back to life somehow. Skin crawl. What are we dealing with here? "And you believe them?" I asked. The priest looked at me scornfully. "No, Excellency, of course not. But we're afraid his followers might try to steal the body and spread lies in the city claiming that he's alive." What can you do with these people? They are impossible to govern and beyond understanding. "Oh, go away!" shouted. "You can have your guard of soldiers, but don't come bothering me anymore now. Get out!" I didn't sleep well that night, nor for many nights afterwards. Neither did my wife. She'd already had a dream about all this, you see, a very troubling dream. It was a warning, she said, I must have nothing to do with this Jesus. I mustn't kill an innocent man. In the end, I had no choice. Well, it's done now. I don't think we've heard the last of it. Or of him.